All right. So yesterday we experienced some problems with TXR. Now, I don't particularly think it's the game itself because sometimes I experience slight interference in other games as well in different forms, such as in Forza Horizon. Sometimes, right as I'm making a really important turn, it seems like someone is pushing the controller, like they have their own controller and they're just pushing it slightly in the other direction when I'm making a really important turn. Um, and then, but with TXR, this past one, it's like, it's very obvious. It's always to the left for some reason. And it's like someone just goes like this, like they're just doing this when I'm not even touching the analog stick even. And then sometimes when I'm, actually steering, it'll just be like that and it'll try to make me crash too. So, not really sure what that is. Like I said, my theory is there's a few different theories I have. One of them is that someone's sitting with my Alienware, which was stolen from me, and my other Xbox One controller, and they're doing that while they're stream. They're, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous if you think about it, but it's possible that they're Steam streaming the game and that they're trying to fuck with it that way. Another possibility is that someone wrote a script somehow, but the thing is that it's only sometimes it's the exact same thing that happens, but it's only sometimes when I play. Sometimes I can play the game like for hours and not have any interference. So what I'm going to do first is I've restarted my computer multiple times now. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to verify the game files, verify integrity of game files. And like I said, this could potentially be part of, it's a petty part of it, but it could potentially be part of the conspiracy to commit murder against me from the police. Because part of that is trying to put me in a state of psychosis so that they can more easily A, discredit me, and B, more easily attack me and or try to arrest me. Unfortunately, as sad as it is to consider that, it is one of the more likely possibilities as to why this is happening. I know that if you haven't experienced this sort of problem before, you might not have any context for why I say those things, but it's actually one of the more likely possibilities at this point. So let's start again, especially because I use this stuff for therapy. Like I use these games as part of my therapy, and really it seems like all they want to do is try to make me triggered so that I'll do something that they can then capitalize on and that they can say was, that I was doing something against the detriment of society or against the or toward, so they can say I was doing something to the detriment of society or myself, so that they can try to claim authority over me. Anyway, once again, hopefully that's not what's going on, and it's just some sort of bug that's going to be resolved by me rebooting my computer and verifying the game files. That's my ideal scenario, is that this is not a problem that will persist. But you never know. It's not the controller, because the controller doesn't do this in other games. So we shall see. Oh, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. When it does that. Now let's see if it continues or how bad it's going to be. That was a minor version of it. That wasn't that severe, but it still happened. There it is. Do you see how it pulled to the left? I didn't touch the control stick when that happened. Let's see if it happens again. There it is again. Now, there is a vague possibility that it is some sort of issue in the game, but I think, let me check and see if there's any steering assists on, because that's literally the only thing that could be causing it. Controller settings, it's probably not going to be in controller settings, it should be in game settings. Gear shift, controller vibration. Course assist display. That's not it. That's just display. So I don't see any steering assists. Let's double check this. Yeah, I think it's just someone Steam streaming with my laptop. Steering angle correction is off. So it should not be happening. Let's see what happens when I turn it back on, though. Let's just see what happens when I turn it back on. Steering angle is limited according to speed. Off to input. Let's turn it on and see what happens. I don't want it on, but let's just deal with it for a minute. Oops, hold on. It's happening again, ever so slightly, pulling to the left. See, there it is again. It just keeps happening. It's just more subtle today than it was. And now I can't make my corners either because the steering angle thing is on. It's still happening a little bit, but it's not nearly as much as it was. Yeah, it's not happening nearly as much as it was. I'm hardly detecting it at all. So I guess I'll just leave that steering angle correction on. As much as I didn't want to have that on, and I shouldn't have needed to put it on. Apparently it's solved whatever that problem is. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it for a little bit and see if it keeps happening, though. It's working fine now. Like, it's just behaving normal again. So, I don't know what the fuck that was. But once again, I've stated my theories. And, if you have any expertise in this area, I encourage you, if you've somehow seen this or are somehow aware of this situation, to look more deeply into it and see if you can figure out what's going on, because I shouldn't be doing things like tracking suspects down right now, because I'm supposed to be recovering, okay? So, you guys see if you can figure it out, if you're aware of it, and, I'm just gonna enjoy this game for a little bit. I am gonna have to do some other stuff today. I just wanted to see if I could figure this out, which this seems to be fine now. So, yeah, but I'm gonna enjoy this for a little bit. And I do love this game, and it is great therapy for me, so I hope you understand how important this is. It's also great training. Now, it's important not to confuse slight jostling due to the road conditions with what was occurring before. What was occurring before was 100% some sort of anomalous input situation, whereas these little bumps are just a result of those grates on the road. It was bumping it slightly sideways, but that's normal considering the road condition, whereas the other scenario was not. It was highly anomalous. And need I fucking say it? It was probably Secret Service. Because it's not that all my problems started at this point, but these specific problems, a lot of them started after Trump got elected. Like right after Trump got elected, before his inauguration even. A lot of this strain of issues began around that time. And considering that I support all peoples, especially Mexicans and peoples of color, and I disagree with a lot of the basic premises upon which Trump operates, I would assume that I was personally targeted as a result of this issue. Especially because I spoke out and said something like, Trump shouldn't be president, he should go serve in a white-collar prison for a few years while he plots and plans and then becomes mayor of New York. I was being supportive. I was saying that we should have Kamala as president, but I can't vote because the system is rigged against me. Anyway, So I'm guessing that as a result of just being who I am and just generally speaking out for stuff and against stuff, when it's important to do so, I would assume that I was personally targeted, along with many other people, of course. That's the thing. You have to understand. I'm not saying that I was the only one who was targeted, but I'm pretty sure that this was a special occasion. You guys remember Mac Miller, right? And how Mac Miller had a beef with Trump? Well, I don't have a beef with Trump, but it seems like Trump's actions and people around him's inability to distinguish between right and wrong have led to this situation, as well as some other issues, such as, I'll give you an example as to the type of other issues that are involved in this with regards to Secret Service, that there was a person called Emma Samuels who was introduced to me at a very crucial time in my life where it was important that I didn't get introduced to anyone like that, and she was living with a Secret Service agent, and so, and then they were encouraging me to do all sorts of things, such as relapse, and also violate my probation, and also they were encouraging me to harm them. And that seemed suspicious. Very suspicious. And then they did a bunch of stuff to try to make me lose my mind. Let's put it that way. They did a bunch of things that were directly counterproductive and went directly against the consent that I issued, given the fact that I had already been introduced to the person after I'd asked not to be introduced to people like that. I did my best and I issued a very specific consent with some very specific boundaries, and it was intentionally violated. And it seems like there was even a plan. It was even planned. It seems like that too. So just so you know, that's and also near that person's house, I had a gun pointed at me. After the SWAT team hit my house, I had a fucking gun pointed at me on the highway in that same vicinity. So it seems very likely that this entire thing was likely as a result of Secret Service, and that the state police are complicit and they've contributed, but that by and large this is an issue that has more to do with the presidency than anything else. And in some ways, if I take a step back and cool down and look at it in a certain light, it's actually an indication that I am probably a presidential candidate. I'm probably someone who could run the country very well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be targeting me like this. They would have done one or two things and left it at that. But considering that they are actually continuously harassing me and bullying me, and frankly, I've been tortured, you could consider a lot of this psychological torture as well. And I've been physically tortured also. You got to take into consideration, maybe it's not that they should be doing that, but maybe that the reason they're doing it is because I'm actually extremely competent, and they feel threatened by me because they are not competent. Because any competent person would not feel threatened by me being competent, because I'm highly cooperative. But it is likely that they are extremely corrupt, and not in a good way, because there's a good type of corruption too, which is where when the rules are wrong, you just do what's right instead. You can technically call that corruption, although it's more like anti-corruption. But they seem to be on the wrong side of just things in general. And, so that would probably explain why they treat me the way that they're treating me. And once again, I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm not saying it's definitely them. I'm just saying some stuff definitely was them. And beyond that, all I can do is speculate. And I have no interest in pursuing it in a prosecutory manner at this moment, because that's a waste of motherfucking time. And also it goes against the idea of justice, which requires certainty. Something that they've forgotten. And I'm not quick to reciprocate that error. If you can dig, you would understand. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this process. At least the game is working correctly again. Moreover and shit. moreover type beat. And I'd also like to make it clear, it's not like I always think that some of these methods are wrong. I just think that they're using them against the wrong type of person right now. Like, there is a legitimate way to resolve these things using some of the methods that they're using, but it's only legitimate if you're using these methods against someone who also uses these methods. And I don't do that. I don't mess with people's gaming experiences by stealing their laptop and using Steam streaming. I don't use remote access Trojans. I don't mess with other people's computers, period. I just don't do it. Because I'm not supposed to. I know what ethical hacking is, and I also know to refrain from almost all hacking ever. Basically, that's all it comes down to. And I also know to respect people's privacy rights when it comes to computers and the internet. And I know what's right and wrong. I'm very well educated and I'm very well disciplined. And I can't say the same for some people, unfortunately. But I'm also not responsible for their actions. I'm responsible for my actions. Once again, I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say definitively that they are doing that, but it is of a high certainty of probability. High degree of probability, let's put it that way. Not enough for me to prosecute anyone. And once again, I'm not talking about walking into a courtroom and getting everyone on my side and saying, now let's team up on these people. I'm talking about, what's it called? A direct course of action. Let's put it that way. Which basically all I'm saying is that if people are behaving in a tyrannical manner, then I'm obligated to kill them. And I don't take that lightly, nor do I want to do it if I can give people more chances. That's what I'm saying. Because that's how I can be effective in fulfilling that particular instance, is by not jumping to conclusions. All of the things that would make me effective at following through on that are the same things that would prevent me from doing it to an innocent. Or even if they're not entirely innocent, it would prevent me from doing it to someone who is simply making a mistake that can be corrected. That sort of action is reserved for people who cannot course correct. Or who are about to make such a big problem that something has to be done about it right now. And while some of that is active, most of the issue is more cumulative at this point. Otherwise, we would already be having open arms. Otherwise the range would be hot already in civilian territory. Like, fully hot. Not just, like, people pointing guns, but shooting. You know, like, shooting openly and almost constantly. And we're not there yet, so I don't have to do that. Yep. Yeah, I'm still good. I'm still good, home slizzles. I ain't gonna lose it on them. Not yet, anyway. Ugh. So that seems to solve this problem for now. I'm just gonna let that sink in while I decide if I want to play more or if I should go read a book or something. I have a little bit of coffee. I got a Krogel sandwich. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go read a book, and I'll continue playing this game later. I'm just glad that I figured out a way to resolve the issue. Wait, hold on, let me save. I know it's already saved, but let me double save. Let me double save. Alright, there we go. Thank you, Genki. I love your game. I hope it continues to be successful.